see. I feel so awkward. Oh my god. Okay. I've been thinking about making this video for so long, but I haven't made a video in so long, so just like the thought of sitting in a room talking to a camera is so like awkward. I don't know. I'm being awkward. Okay. Everything is okay. You don't need to whisper. Okay, I apologize, but I've been thinking about doing this for a while, so I'm gonna do it. I would encourage you to get a drink, get cozy, get a snack, because I feel like it's gonna be a longer video. It's just mostly gonna be me talking about the title of this video, I suppose, whatever the thumbnail is showing. Just kind of my experience with that, but I will maybe start off by introducing myself, because I haven't made a video in like years. So I don't think anybody's been hanging around my channel much. Hi, I'm Riniapple. I am a digital illustrator and a webcomic creator. I'm mostly active on Instagram, sometimes on Tumblr, those sorts of places, just posting my illustrations. But yeah, I've been thinking about making a bit of a return to the YouTube just because I've started a new project and I think it would be good to kind of document the journey and share it with other people. But the first thing that I kind of wanted to get off my chest was an experience I had, which ended about a year ago. Why it's taken me so long to make this video and share this story, I'll be honest, I think when I had decided to, I suppose, like, quit, I think I just wanted to sweep everything under the rug. Those, like, the feelings of inadequacy, like I just didn't want to think about it or talk about it. So I think that's probably why I didn't make the video in so long, but it's been a year, a little more than a year, and I've started making art again, and I'm feeling excited and I'm feeling good, and I think I want to share this story mostly because, so I make illustrations, but a big part of why I love illustrating is kind of the narrative aspect of things. I wouldn't really consider myself a writer, but writing kind of comes with comic making, especially if you're creating your own stories. But the reason why I think I'm so drawn to comics is because I just love connecting with people through experiences and through sharing feelings and just connecting with people like on a very just sincere, heart-to-heart, human kind of level. So I think that's a big reason why I feel this like need to make this video, is because I just want to offer some sort of comfort to those who may be thinking about making the leap to leaving your full-time job to pursue art, who may have already made the leap and you're kind of in the midst of all of it, or who did make the leap and decided, I think I would rather kind of keep this part-time and return to working a full-time 9 to 5 whatever job again. So that's kind of why I want to make this video, and I can't help but think back to a video that I watched many times by a YouTube creator. She goes by Mini Smalls, and she made a video kind of like this, kind of like a sit down, if I remember, just kind of like a story of her experiences going from, you know, like graduating, or I don't even know if, I don't think she graduated actually, university, anywho, but kind of going from working, you know, for many years, like I believe it was a cafe and then at a grocery store, just stocking shelves and stuff. Kind of like dilly-dallying, procrastinating, always at the back of her mind, you know, thinking, I want to be an illustrator, I want to leave this job and pursue illustration. Her story just going from that to taking the leap and, you know, pursuing illustration as a full-time career. So I watched that video before I decided to leave my 9-to-5 job, and also, you know, during, like after, when, especially in moments where I felt very alone or very like doubtful of myself and, you know, doubtful of the decision that I had made, I would watch that video again and again and again. It was like my comfort blanket in a way. So I guess I kind of want to make something like that, or I'm hoping it will be something like that for someone out there. If I can offer something like that to at least one person, then I will be happy with this video that I am making. So let me, I should probably drink this coffee that I prepared for myself. Instant coffee, don't judge. Okay, and if you notice me looking over here, I have my my iPad with my notes. I made a few notes, just helping me out. Okay, so where do I even begin? I don't know if I mentioned this yet. Okay, let's start from like the very beginning. Just get cozy, draw whatever you gotta do. You can have me on in the background. So I, like many artists out there, have loved illustration since I was a kid. I think some of the earliest memories I have of drawing and like making art probably was around like 3-4 years old. I remember a huge influence on my early artwork were films by Studio Ghibli, especially like Castle in the Sky. I loved Sailor Moon. Like I loved Sailor Moon, so I remember, this is gonna age me a bit, I had a VHS tape with a cover illustration, and I remember sitting down and like I must have tried to copy this thing a bunch of times because I have such like vivid memories of trying to like get the pleats in Sailor Moon's skirt just right, or like the two, I think there's like 2 stripes on her like collar thing, just like trying to figure out how to make those 2 stripes not like merge into one. So yeah, I drew a lot of that, and I think around the time I also had a bit of an interest in children's picture books, because I recall in my grade 2 class, my teacher had read us, I believe it was The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein, and I went home and on a whim, I guess, I created my own version of it. Just on like printer paper, I stapled it together. I think it had something to do with grocery shopping, I don't know, but I created my own version of the story. I like drew it all, and then once I finished, I brought it to school. I showed my teacher, and for some reason she was like so impressed. like I honestly I didn't think it was anything. I just wanted to show her like, oh, I like the story, so I made it a book, my own book. But I think she was so impressed because I remember her taking me, a little grade 2 girl, over to the junior high side of the school, and she like toured me around all the classes and had me present my book that I had made to all these like older students. And it was kind of scary but exciting at the same time. And I think it was then that my like love of illustration and my love of, you know, illustrating stories really started to like blossom. So as I grew older, and this is probably getting into like junior high and stuff, I started, you know, watching a wider variety of anime. So, you know, not just Sailor Moon, like magical girl stuff, but kind of a wider variety of genres and topics and maturity levels. And so I think that inspired me to want to make my own comics, my own stories. So I remember, you know, coming up with these like worlds and characters and attempting to make comics. Although I don't think I ever actually got more than a few pages into any comic. It's yeah, but the desire was there. So yeah, I remember those probably when I started getting into comic making, and I think it was also around that time that I had decided that when I grow up, I want to be an illustrator. So that dream kind of stuck with me all the way through high school. And by the time I was nearing graduation and I had to decide on what I was going to do for post-secondary, I was understandably met with a lot of resistance from my parents when I had expressed to them my desire to pursue a bachelor's degree in art. I think a lot of their worries about art being a viable career path and just like concerns about financial stability and like how competitive, you know, the field and the market is. I think those fears kind of like took root in me too, and I decided, okay, well, I mean, if not that, I mean, I don't know what else to do. So I just kind of went to study what my parents suggested, which, of thinking back, it sounds so silly, but I did, and I ended up studying geology. So for those that don't know, that's like the science of earth and rocks. So that was an interesting experience. I mean, it was an interesting science for sure, an interesting degree. Definitely not entirely my cup of tea. There was a lot of like outdoor excursions, there's field school, a lot of lab time, but I made it through. I survived. I did quite well, but I think it was by my final year, I just realized, you know, I don't think I want to pursue this as a career after I graduate. Like that feeling was very strong in me. So I started to think, well, I mean, if I'm not gonna if I'm not gonna pursue geology, like what am I gonna do? And then that, you know, that little voice, that little dream that was still within me kind of started taking spark again, like, oh, what if, you know, you tried to pursue illustration? And at the time, I was both fearful and hopeful. I mean, I didn't, because I didn't pursue a degree in art, I didn't really have like the skills, I suppose, like the fundamentals that a lot of other artists have that do go to study. So I thought like, ooh, like I'm gonna be competing with a lot of, you know, really talented, educated people. I wasn't entirely sure what exactly I wanted to do with my art. So while I kind of, you know, try to mull that over in my mind, I just started taking courses kind of in my free time between, you know, trying to complete my thesis and my just like my final year courses. I started taking classes on SVS Learn. It's called Society of Visual Storytelling. I would highly recommend it if anybody's looking for you know, art courses on just like the fundamentals and more specifically geared towards visual storytelling. So like children's picture books, comics, like anything that editorial illustration, like anything that has to do with storytelling through illustration, I would highly recommend. But I took courses on things like perspective and you know, like color theory, composition, visual storytelling, like all that stuff, and I learned a lot. And I do think it really helped. So yeah, I did all that. I graduated from university, and at this point in time, I think I kind of fell into like a bit of a depression. I think a lot of students go through this after graduating. It's a huge life transition. You know, it kind of settles in like, wow, I'm supposed to be an adult now. Like, I don't feel ready at all. And then the other thing too was, and even now, you know, maybe even more so now, but at the time, the job market was really difficult to break into. So I was struggling to find employment. So what I did was, I mean, like while I kind of applied for jobs and stuff, I decided to start a project, my very first webcomic. It was called I'm Going to Mars. Maybe if I feel like a chunk of my subscribers on my channel kind of like came from around that time, but yeah, so that was my first comic project, and it was around the time that I was planning to post it on Webtoon, and Webtoon was having this contest where I believe the final one or two or whatever it was, but the finalist would basically be offered a contract to be an original creator. And silly old me thought that I might have a chance at landing that contract. Me, who had never fully fledged out an actual comic, I don't know what I was thinking, but I had hope, I had a dream, so I just kind of went all in, and I had so much fun. You know, coming up with the story, coming up with the character designs, like figuring it all out, you know, like it was my first time putting together a comic, so just like learning how to, you know, like make panels make sense, and like how do I position characters, and like how do word bubbles work and all this stuff. But wow, that was a while ago. I'm kind of blanking on what happened, but at some point I think I was putting so much pressure on myself, because like the core, I mean, what I was really hoping for was, you know, for this comic to become something, maybe help propel me in, I don't know, into some sort of career in illustration. Like maybe this would be kind of like my foot in the door sort of thing. But I think all the pressure I was putting on myself, and there is also a lot of external pressure at home that I won't get into too much, but all that kind of just like piled on top, and I fell off the project. I just quit. I think, I don't know how many episodes I did. It wasn't that many. Each episode was pretty long though, but it wasn't too many. And I quit. And then just due to tensions at home, I got a job, just any job, literally anything that I could get. It was a job as a receptionist at a car dealership. And I just left home, like just like within a weekend. I like left, moved in with a bunch of random roommates, random people, and I was off on my own, completely alone. It wasn't the greatest time in my life. I felt lost. I felt like without direction. I had a dream. I still had this dream of wanting to be an illustrator, but I still had like no sense of exactly what I wanted to do. Like, did I want to, do like commercial work, like advertising, editorial? Do I want to try and get into publishing, like children's books, graphic novels? Like, I didn't really know. So I just kind of went about my day. I went to work. I come home, draw a bit, sometimes go back to work. I didn't have much communication with my family at that time. Like, I was very, very much alone, aside from maybe like one or two friends. Yeah. I don't know, it's actually kind of hard to remember whether or not I still wanted to pursue illustration. I think I just, like, I would kind of go back and forth between, like, oh, there was an opportunity at work to maybe, get into accounting. So I think, oh, okay, maybe I should like go get a diploma in accounting or something, just so that I can get like a more proper job or whatever. But then I'd be like, no, like, you're distracting yourself from what you actually do want to do. Like, you should focus more on, like building your skills in illustration, build up your portfolio, try to send it out there, get an agent, anything, right? But I kind of flip-flop between like, what do I want to do? And then after some time, I happened to come upon another job that paid a bit better, at a law firm, and I worked there as a records and information analyst for just over 3 years. Yeah, it was a while. It was a good company. I enjoyed it. I think I just got comfortable. I just fell, into like the day-to-day, kind of similar to Minnie Smells, like how she, like spent, I think, kind of similar amount of time, like 3 years just working that job at the grocery store, just comfortable with it, but always in the back of her mind, like wanting to take the leap and like really, like put like your foot to the pedal and like, pursue a career in illustration. But yeah, I think, especially when you're working full time, like a 9 to 5, there's like, and like, I mean, it's not like I have like dependents or anything. Like, my life is pretty chill. I just need to worry about myself and my partner and our dog. But even so, working full time, I come home and then I just like kind of not feel like drawing anything, which is, I mean, I could have pushed myself a little more and like be more disciplined. But yeah, I didn't really put a lot of time into illustration. I kind of like drew here and there, but it was very inconsistent. And then at some point, I don't know what it was, like what sparked it, but oh, maybe I should check if the camera's still working. Okay, it's still working. Wow, it's been 30 minutes. If you're still listening, wow, thank you. So, well, where was I? I was saying, what was I saying? Oh God. Maybe I'll have to stop and rewind to figure out what I was saying. Oh yeah, this spark, this desire to start a new comic project, or yeah, that's kind of what it started as. I think I was in my 3rd year of working at the law firm, and I don't know what sparked it, what inspired it, I don't know, but I just suddenly had this like I don't know, like insatiable desire to make this comic, and I ended up calling it Follow Your Art, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. The characters, the world, I'd write, like I spend a lot of time writing the story, like designing the characters, all this stuff, and then the thought kind of crossed my mind, like I wonder if I put as much time and dedication, you know, and like discipline into pursuing illustration, into pursuing this project as I did, you know, when I did my degree. Like, I wasn't particularly interested in geology, like it was not my passion or anything. However, I put a lot of time and effort into it, so much so that I was like kind of getting like top marks in many of my classes, which is kind of like crazy to think, because like there are a lot of people that genuinely did like geology, but because I was very studious, I was very disciplined, I would like wake up early to start studying and like go to the lab early and, you know, like stay up late and all that stuff. I achieved my goals there. So I thought, if I could do that but with something that I actually like love and feel passion for, I feel like I can make my dreams come true. That's what I thought. That's what I was thinking. So I, and yeah, I honestly didn't really have that much of a plan. I probably should have thought it through a bit more, but I just had this like intense desire to just like leave my job and just dive like all in into making art. And well, at least I wanted to start off by making this comic project, see where that went, see if, you know, maybe it leads to something, and then if not, maybe pivoting more towards, you know, like trying to get client work with a portfolio kind of thing. So when was it? May of 2022, put in my notice to leave my full-time job. And I do want to say, so this is, I understand this is probably not an option for a lot of people. I was in a very privileged position where one, I live with, well, I don't have any dependents, like I don't have any children that are dependent on me, so that helps a lot, aside from my dog, but she's, yeah, yeah. What was I gonna say? And I have a partner that is able to cover most of the, like, our housing expenses, that it was supportive of my decision to leave and to pursue art. So I was in a very privileged position to be able to make that decision, and I had also built up quite a substantial savings amount of savings from just, you know, I think always in the back of my mind, like I always dreamt of leaving and kind of giving myself a year or two maybe to try and like really just fully focus on building up my art career. So I had saved up quite a bit of money to kind of fund this excursion. So yeah, I just left my job, and I think everyone, it was so strange because it was kind of bittersweet when I left. I think everyone knew how much I loved art, and they were all so supportive, and when I told them why I decided to leave, they were all so happy for me, and like all of my friends and all of my partner's friends were just like so excited for me, and yeah, it just kind of fueled me even more. Like I feel like I'm making the right decision. Like I think like I'm gonna make this happen. I'm gonna make my dreams come true. So I left, and yeah, I just went fucking I went ham. Like I had this whole schedule. I made like a schedule with my little planner, and I started getting right into making this comic. And I had kind of like a whole system, a workflow. I like optimized everything. Like I put macros and stuff in my Photoshop, in my Clip Studio. I figured out how to like use like 3D models in SketchUp to like kind of speed up my background making process and like all this stuff. And yeah, I worked incredibly hard on this comic, and I loved it. It was so much fun, and just seeing how receptive everyone was to it, and just like the comments I was receiving. At some point, what did I do? Because while I was posting it on Webtoon, and it ended up popping up as like I think the editors kind of like curate a list of like up and coming comics like once a week or whatever, but my comic ended up being kind of like pushed to the front page as a fresh pick, and that was like kind of like this boost of like encouragement, like, oh, you're doing a good job, like, so that kind of fueled me even more to keep pursuing this. And then I think it just kind of started. I don't really know what I was hoping to come of it. I think like best case scenario, I was thinking, you know, like, oh, what if I don't know, like Webtoon notices me and like wants to offer me a contract, or maybe I don't know, like I could maybe submit this to publishers and see if they want to invest in this as a project, or I don't know. But yeah, I honestly, I don't really know what I was hoping for, but at some point it kind of hit me that this is gonna be a long haul thing. This is gonna be a long haul thing. You're very most likely not gonna be making any money from this anytime soon. And I don't know why I didn't think that through before I started. I think I was just so excited to just like spend 100% of my time working on a comic. I think that's all I wanted to do. But it kind of just hit me like, I don't think most people start making money from their comic until maybe like a year, 2 years of like consistently posting, even then. And so I think I started to panic a little bit. I was thinking like, how am I gonna make money? Oh my god, like what do I do? Do I pivot? Do I keep like, do I just stick with this? Yeah, I think I just started to freak out. And I was thinking like, okay, if I just keep working on this comic, like I mean eventually like I think it will get somewhere. I hope, I think, I don't know. Um just like the initial reception was already so good. Um so like I felt like if I just like stuck with it and kept doing it, like it would I don't know, like lead to something eventually. But then on the other hand, I was starting to think like, oof, maybe I should pivot and focus on, like uh, building up my portfolio and like start submitting it to agents and like art directors and stuff, just so that I can start working on projects that will pay me like right now or soon. Because I think after so many years of like working a full-time job and like having like a steady paycheck, um not having a steady paycheck, not knowing when I was gonna make money, how much I was gonna make, if I was gonna make anything, if I could support myself, how long it, like just all these thoughts. So I think there was a lot of pressure. And as much as I loved making that comic, I loved making it, and I loved the story and I loved the characters. I kind of just caved. I was so worried and like anxious that I couldn't like sit down and work on it without like all these like thoughts going through, like running in my head. So I can't remember how long I worked on it. I think maybe 3 months. It honestly wasn't that long. But I I kind of put it on like an indefinite hiatus, and I pivoted to building out my portfolio. And I specifically built it for children's book illustration, and editorial illustration. That was the kind of illustration that I was more like the what's it called? Like the market, I guess, that I was most familiar with, especially after taking all those courses on SVS. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll focus in on this first, and then we'll kind of, maybe like land a project or something, just to, like get a little bit of income, and then kind of go from there. So I created a very comprehensive list of illustrations that I wanted to create in order to like make sure my portfolio is very rounded out. So things like a wide variety of environments, variety of lighting situations, variety of camera angles, variety of like subject matter, like a couple characters, one character, a crowd, things like that, different seasons, like different weather, just trying to include as much to show art directors or whoever's reviewing my portfolio that I was capable of illustrating all of these things that could potentially be in a children's book story, and also just kind of keeping consistent with my own style at the same time. And this was I really enjoyed this part of the experience. Actually, I I made so many illustrations that were so outside of my comfort zone, things that I never like even thought to make, because it's just like I tend, and I think a lot of artists are like this, like you kind of have your go-to thing that you like to draw. Like for me, it's like young women, like kind of fashion sort of outfit type things, usually a single subject, or like maybe like a couple like girls standing there and like they're OOTDs or whatever. But that's kind of like my default. But with these, like I put on my list like, okay, I want to do like an older lady like drying persimmons on a summer day in her old farmhouse. So that was something I did, and I was like I was shocking myself time and time again at like things that I thought I couldn't make. I was like making them. Things like I did like an urban scene, like a city scene with like a crowd of people like walking across the street, and I made it raining, so there had to be some like reflection in the pavement, and I even put cars in there, like all these things that I just like never have drawn before, especially like all together, and like composed it. I did it, and I just kind of like doing all this and pushing myself out of my comfort zone to like make all these things gave me a lot of confidence. Like I was like, okay, I think I can actually like land a job, and if I were to be given a project, I'm confident that I would be able to deliver on it, and like, you know, make a children's book and the client be happy about what I've made. So I don't know how many illustrations I made. I was going at a very rapid pace. Like I think I was pumping out like a full illustration once every 4 days, maybe even more frequent than that. Like I was going like ham, like morning to night, like just working on these illustrations, just so that I had this like rounded out portfolio that I could send off to hopefully get like an art rep, like an agent or something, or just to send to a director, art director directly to get projects. So I built up a good amount of illustrations, and I started feeling like, okay, I think it's probably about time I start sending this off. And I think this was probably after another 2 or 3 months that I had worked on this. And then the self-doubt just started coming back, you know. I think, and it's so tough because, and I kind of like, how do I say this? I kind of felt like because I didn't go to art school, I never created art in an environment where I'm making with other people and receiving constructive criticism on a regular basis from people that are better than me, or like professors or teachers, or even like peers. So I was kind of like making art in a bubble. And I mean, I can compare my work to you know, like stuff that I see online, or even just like watch art critiques that have been given on like SVS Learn or on YouTube or whatever, but just like not having that same sort of like criticism applied to my own work by somebody else, and to be given like reassurance, like, yes, this is good enough, this is like at a professional level, you can submit this, or hey, you know, you should probably like polish these things up, or oh, there's like something here that maybe you should like you know, like work on or whatever. I just, that kind of like unknown, like I felt just very unsure of myself in that sense. So what I ended up doing is I can't remember, it's some sort of kind of like SVS Learn, but I can't remember, but it's this guy, he runs this like art podcast and these like art critique groups and stuff, but he also offers portfolio reviews. So I ended up purchasing one from him. I don't think it was that expensive. I think probably like $40 or something for an hour. But he went over my portfolio, and I was like, okay, after this, like depending on like the criticism that I get. Like if he says it's good, you're good to submit, okay, I will just like start submitting my stuff. Or if he tells me, okay, you need to like work on this or like add this to your portfolio, okay, then I'll work on that. So I attended and he reviewed it and he said, like, honestly, you're good. Like it seems like you have a very good awareness of what you need in order to land clients. Like you know what they're looking for in the portfolio. Seems like you did your research, which I did. And the quality of your work is at a level where like if you do submit it, you probably will be getting responses. So I'm like, okay, that's good. And I thought I'd feel better after, but I still just didn't feel good enough, and I don't know what it was, but I still didn't feel like my stuff was good enough. Regardless, I took that and I did start submitting my portfolio. I started like researching art directors and just kind of like cold emailing. I didn't really send it off to art agencies for some reason. And I think it was because I felt like I had like one chance or something, or like I had one chance a year sort of thing. Like I didn't want to submit something to them and then get a rejection and then have to like wait a year or something again to resubmit it. I was just kind of like dilly-dallying and like waiting till I felt like I had enough good pieces in my portfolio to send it. So I didn't really send it off to art agencies, but I did send it off to quite a number of art directors. I got a handful of responses. There was actually one person that reached out, someone local, like a magazine around here that had reached out about a project, but that didn't really turn into anything. I think they had reached out to a few people and maybe had decided on someone else. So yeah, so not too much. I think I only did this for like a couple weeks. I honestly didn't spend all that much time trying to send out my work, but I was just starting to like, the panic was starting to set in. I was like, oh my god, nobody wants my stuff, like nobody wants to hire me, like I'm screwed, I'm not gonna be getting money, like what decision have I made, like holy cow. What did I do? I did take on a few jobs on Upwork. I think I was being a little, like, I've worked on there a few times before. The pay is not good, but it's kind of like good to, I mean, it's helpful if you want to kind of beef up your portfolio and put more projects on there. I don't know. I did land a fairly decent paying job for editorial illustrations for like a blog or something like that. So I worked on that for a few weeks. But I think okay, let me, man, this video is getting long. Sorry. But I'm gonna tell my story and get it out there. Yeah, okay. Okay, so what did I do? Oh yeah, so I think what I was saying was around this time that panic started settling in, and so much so that I would wake up every morning and feel like I've never felt anything like this before. Just this like sense of dread, like this unexplainable, like deep sense of dread, like my life was over kind of feeling, which is kind of ridiculous because I mean, like, my life wasn't over, but I was so fearful that I had made the wrong decision in leaving my job. I felt like I had made a bad decision in terms of like there being a gap in employment on my resume. I started to worry like, okay, if I did want to backtrack, if I did want to go back to working a 9 to 5 job, like, would anybody even hire me again? Like, you know, I was starting to really get like worried. And I started debating, like, do I want to keep, I mean, I wasn't, I still had quite a bit of savings. Like I, I made sure I had enough to go, I think, almost 2 years. Like, and I mean, this was like spending very conservatively, and obviously with the help, like me not having to cover any housing expenses, just like my own bills, and like my own like food and all that kind of stuff, like clothing, whatever, um, gas, car insurance, like whatever, just my own stuff. Um, so I still had quite a bit, but I was starting to worry, like, ugh, if I wanted to like dip and go back to working a job, like, have I like screwed myself over? Like, this gap in my employment, I haven't like developed any sort of like employable skill outside of like illustration. Like, I'm gonna be so behind in life compared to my peers, like just things like that. And then also, like, am I good enough? Like, is anyone even gonna hire me? Like, so I just, rather than continuing to submit my work, I just kind of like shut down. I just shut down. Like, it's kind of hard to remember what happened around that time, but it was, I don't know if it was like depression or what, but it was an intense, like, kind of constant anxious feeling. And I think I was like that for about a month or so. And then at what point? So I had quit my job in May of 2022. And then I think in November, so June, July, August, September, October, November, 6 months. I gave myself 6 months, but I think around November is when I just said, you know what, I can't deal with the uncertainty. I can't deal with not knowing if I'm gonna make money from this. I can't deal with not knowing if I'm good enough. I can't deal with like the worry, the fear that if I do need to leave, nobody's gonna hire me again. Like that kind of all these like just overthinking. But I just started applying for jobs again. I just I think if I did stick it out, I mean, I still had a lot of time. If I didn't worry so much about what was to come, if I didn't worry so much about, you know, like whether I was good enough or my art was good enough, if I had just been consistent, and just stuck with it, I do think something would, well, I mean, this is speculation, but I do think at least like I would have landed a few jobs here and there if I had, I didn't even submit my portfolio to art agencies. I think if I actually did, who knows, maybe I would have landed something and they would have been able to get me some client work. I don't know, but yeah, I just felt this intense like need to just have stability again. So I just started mass applying to jobs, and that was also another very tough experience, because applying for jobs and getting interviews and stuff like that, yeah, that's a whole other beast in itself. It's very exhausting, it's tiring, it's just like, I feel sorry for anyone who's looking for a job right now, who's going through this, because yeah, it's not fun. And I was even then I was kind of worried, like, oh my god, like nobody's hiring me, like nobody's calling me back, like all this stuff. And then eventually, it took a while. I did I got hired at this small engineering firm in January, I think. But I ended up only going like 2 days, and I just like, I've never done this before, but I went, and it was just such an awful environment, such an awful owner. I just left. I was just like, I went 2 days, I'm like, fuck this, like I can't, like this is awful, I don't want to work here. And yeah, that after that I spiraled even more. I'm like, holy, like I don't even know if anyone's gonna hire me. Am I gonna find a job? Like the last place that I worked, the law firm, was so comfortable, and like I liked the people there, and I started to feel so much like regret leaving. I did try and see if they would potentially have a spot for me to go back. There are some people there that, you know, that were open to me coming back, but at the time there just like wasn't. There wasn't a lot of there wasn't an open spot or anything, so that's understandable. So I just kept applying. I wasn't making any art. I wasn't submitting my art anywhere. I was just like, I have I have this tendency of being very like black and white thinking. It's like all in or all out. And I mean that's not how life works. This is what my therapist has told me many times, but life is just a series, it's spectrum of gray. There's no 100% this or 100% that, but that's kind of the way that I tend to function. Is I dive like 100% in, or I'm like, okay, no, drop it 100% out. So as soon as I started applying for jobs, I just completely abandoned making art, which is horrible to think, but I did. And I think it was around March of 2023. So I was job searching from November to March that I finally found a job, a really good job, really good company. I'm still there. It's been just over a year. And yeah, I mean, I've been there since. And when one, like the first thing I felt was just like relief. Like just, I felt so like this huge weight was taken off my shoulders. I didn't even think about the fact that I had kind of like abandoned my dream, that I was so concerned about like getting rid of this like anxiety, this like anxious feeling that like, oh my god, like where's my next paycheck gonna be? Like, am I gonna be able to support myself? Have I made a mistake with my life? Like that kind of thing. That as soon as I found a job again, I didn't think about the art at all. I just was just grateful that I had a job. And after this, I think that me going back to working full-time again, I think in my mind, it was like I had like abandoned that dream of becoming an illustrator. Like I thought of it as like, that was my one chance, and I tried, I failed, and that's that. Like that was kind of the thought that was in my head, I suppose, at the time. So because I kind of, like I was like, okay, I gave this a shot. I couldn't handle it, so I gave up. Okay, that was my one shot. I just completely just stopped drawing, like anything. I didn't make anything for like a year, I think. Maybe like a doodle here and there, like less than a handful of doodles, very like rough ones maybe, but no full illustration, nothing. and I was like content for maybe up until January, February of this year, 2024. I just like was kind of cruising, you know, like living my day-to-day, going to work, you know. But I think it was around winter time, and it probably doesn't help that like especially where I live in Canada, there's not a lot of sunlight, like there's seasonal depression, all that stuff. But I started to feel really like empty. I felt this weird, it just kind of like hit me, this sort of like emptiness, and I didn't quite understand what it was. I just started feeling like a sense of like purposelessness, and like I started to question like what am I doing with my life, and like why am I here, and just like all this like existentialist stuff. And I didn't even think about like the experience that I had just gone through. I guess I didn't ever, like I didn't realize that I hadn't even processed it, and I don't think I realized how big of a thing that actually was in my life. Because like, I mean, I had just like, when I had started this video, I talked about how like I've loved illustration since I was a kid. Like it's been in my life my whole life. My dream was always to become an illustrator, and to suddenly abandon that dream and like that become, you know, like that was my guiding light, to not have that anymore. It's like I don't know, it's like just drifting in the middle of the ocean and having no idea which direction to swim, or like it just like kind of hit me that I had given up on my dream of, I don't know, like my lifelong dream. Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't really know how to like process this. I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know if, you know, I even wanted to think about trying to pursue illustration again because of the experience that I had gone through. I just like didn't know if I even had it in me. So I went to a few therapy sessions just to like talk about it and like process it and stuff. And I think what I ended up realizing is that, again, I'm just thinking black and white. Like just because I made that leap and it didn't work out the first time, you know, I got scared. Everybody gets scared. I needed stability, which is fine. I quit for a year. I didn't make anything. I took a break from it. Just because I did that doesn't mean that I'm not allowed to keep chasing my dreams. And just because of that doesn't mean that, or in chasing my dreams, I don't need to do it the same way again. And by that I mean like it doesn't need to be all in or all out. It can be, you know, if my dream is illustrating a book and have like completing a full illustrated graphic novel, having it printed in my hand, like that is a fine dream to have. It doesn't need to necessarily be my sole source of income for me to be an illustrator, for me to feel worthy of like calling myself an illustrator. It doesn't need to be the only thing that I'm doing in my life. I can balance it with working a full-time job and illustrating. Or I mean, like if my illustrations do happen to I don't know, like gain some traction at some point, just take it as it comes. And if it evolves, if it starts to take up more of my time, maybe I'll pivot and focus more on that. But it doesn't need to be all in and all out. And I think yeah, that was like my biggest lesson. I'm like sweating. This is like an intense topic. Okay. I don't know where I was getting at. What I was getting at. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I have kind of renewed my desire, that spark, the spark within me, that artistic spark has been reignited but this time with all what I've gone through, my experiences, what I've learned about myself, all the skills that I gained, you know, like working on Follow Your Art, all the skills that I gained, like making all of those illustrations for my portfolio. I am going in again. I mean, I'm going in again. What am I trying to say? I'm pursuing illustration again, but not in the same sense that I did back in 2022. I'm pursuing illustration again just for the love of creating. To make something that I'm pleased with, to fill my soul, to share a part of me with other people in the world, and to hopefully touch other people with the stories that I create. I think for me right now, that's the perfect goal. Just to make things that I want to make, keep my job, balance that out, not too much of that, not too much of art, just have a healthy balance, and not put pressure on myself to make money from my art, but just to create completely self-indulgent works of art, self-indulgent comics, whatever it might be. Just make things for the love of it, for me, and by making things for me, the things that I want to make are things that will hopefully reach other people and touch other people. So yeah, that's where I am right now. And for those of you who have kind of been maybe following me on Instagram, I'm sure you know, but I have started a new project, a new comic that I'm working on, that I'm taking my sweet time with. I am making it exactly how I want it. The style, the story, I'm not letting anyone influence any of that, like I kind of did with my first, or with Follow Your Art. I will say, I don't think I mentioned it, but I did have a chance to speak with an editor at Webtoon. It was during like, what was it? Webtoon, there's like I don't know what's it called. It happens like once a year. I think it's like a creative conference kind of thing. but I happened to land a slot for a kind of like a portfolio review or comic review by an editor. And I took like everything that he said to heart, and I applied everything, like, and by what he said I mean like things about my style. Like he had said, you know, like your style is not exactly what's most popular on the platform, but I mean, like, keep doing you, but you know, like, kind of, basically what I was saying is probably not going to appeal to very many people, probably not a huge chance of them picking it up because of the style. Understandably, it's not as marketable. And then the other thing was just points about how the story was organized, just stuff like that. And I took literally everything that he said, and I applied it, or I like rebooted the story. I applied everything, and I feel like it just ended up not quite being what I wanted it to be anymore. I don't know how to explain it. The style, I mean, it looked fine, but it wasn't really like 100% me. The story wasn't 100% like how I would have it. So with this one, like I was saying before, I'm gonna make things that are self-indulgent, just 100%. Sorry, no more 100%. Just, I'm just gonna make it mine, how I wanna make it, my style, my story, whatever, and I'm going to make sure that I have a blast making it, which I have been, especially with all the character designs I've made. I love them. I love my characters. I love the story that I've made. I've been working on it, writing it, rewriting it, section scenes, reorganizing for the last few months, and I'm just starting to get into thumbnailing and illustrating my panels. I just finished my first full page. Still kind of working out my process. It's a little bit different from Follow Your Art because it's a lot more like hand-drawn, which I love the look of. It's a little bit more time consuming in some ways, but I'm gonna stick with it. And yeah, that's part of why I am coming back to YouTube, is because I kind of want to document this process. I want to share my creative journey. I haven't always done a very good job of that with my previous comics, so I think it'd be fun to kind of show the behind the scenes and like my thought process, how I make everything, how I balance making comics with working a full-time job, things like that. So yeah, that's another reason why I'm coming back here and making videos, is because of this project that I'm so excited about and I want to share with everyone. So yeah, that's the story. Oh my god, I am exhausted from talking. I'm sure you can tell, or people that know me, if you're watching, I'm very introverted. So talking this much is like, oh my god, I'm just gonna like go flop on the couch for a while after this and just like sit in silence. But yeah, I'm glad I got all of that out of my system. For those of you that have sat through this and listened to the whole story, thank you for your time and attention. If this touched you in any way, if this, I don't know, helps you feel some sort of like comfort in knowing that you're not alone, you're an illustrator with dreams, you want to take the leap. You know, I did. I probably gave up too soon, I'll be honest. But you know, I did what I needed to do to make myself feel better, to not feel so anxious. And what I did is fine. That was not my one and only chance. I still have the rest of my life ahead of me. I can try and try again. I'm not gonna give up in making my art. I'm gonna keep putting it out there. I'm gonna keep making it for me. And yeah, hopefully, hopefully this video resonated with you. Hopefully, you know, it maybe if you were feeling on the fence about, you know, like leaving, taking a leap, maybe it's helped you kind of decide what you want to do. If you did try and attempt to leave your job and maybe you found that full-time illustration's not for you and you've you know, returned to working full-time again, maybe hopefully this this video comforts you in some way, knowing that like you're definitely not the only one that's gone through that. You are not a failure. You might feel like you are, but you are absolutely not. And honestly, and like people would say this to me quite a bit and I wouldn't really take it to heart, but a lot of people will tell me that I was so brave to do that. And you know, I didn't really think much of it, but thinking back, like, yeah, I was really fucking brave to do that. And so for those of you that did, you are fucking brave. Yeah, don't give up, don't stop making art. I mean, like, take a break if you need to, but yeah, just if you feel like you failed, don't ever think that you just need to stop creating, because you don't. So yeah, that's the story. I'm my voice is feeling very I'm feeling a bit parched. If yeah, if any of you are interested in the comic that I'm gonna be that I'm working on, feel free to follow along. I'm going to make an effort to post videos about it. I'm pretty active on Instagram, so I'm always like updating about what I'm working on there. But yeah, feel free to follow along if you want to subscribe, and yeah, if you have, I don't know, I would love if you have thoughts about this whole experience, if you relate to something, I just want to hear your thoughts. I would love to see your comments on this video. So if you do have some thoughts, I'd love to, yeah, please feel free to leave them down below, and I will be so happy to read them. Okay, I'm sorry I'm so awkward. I will try to get better. Thank you. Goodbye.